So President Trump and the Republicans have revealed their budget proposal for the next fiscal year. And surprise, surprise, it is a wish list of Republican priorities, including massive cuts to so-called entitlement programs and giant amounts of gifts to the military. Now, in all, the president's budget calls for a total of $2.7 trillion in cuts, and it's a $4 trillion budget. And now these cuts will be in safety net programs, environmental protection, food and housing assistance, and foreign aid over the next 10 years. This is according to a summary reviewed by the Washington Post. Now, the Medicaid cuts alone would be to the tune of $1.5 trillion and would be achieved by approving harsh work requirements at the state level. A lot of states, of course, that are under Republican control are more than happy to institute these work requirements. Now, this is in line with his previous budget that also targeted Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. And for example, in addition to the $1.5 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, there would be $845 billion cut from Medicare and $25 billion cut from Social Security. So what happened? I thought this president was never going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Oops, looks like that's another lie. Anybody who believes him at this point is just, look, I don't know, man. Maybe they like being lied to. Maybe that's like a thing. Like, oh, lie to me more, Trump, please. I don't know. It's kind of creepy. But according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, they said each of the past two Trump budgets has targeted benefits and services for individuals and families of modest means for deep cuts. And it has supported tax cuts, conferring large new benefits on those at the top of the income scale. That is the Trump Republican budget in a nutshell. Give more benefits to the rich while cutting it from the poor and the middle class. Now, they said also, if enacted, these cuts would have increased poverty and hardship, leaving more people struggling to afford basics like food and rent. And it's the same with this new budget. So, now, look, just the horribleness of this bill cannot be understated, especially given that the Trump administration has literally handed out $1.5 trillion worth of tax cuts, a giant chunk of which went to the richest Americans and multinational corporations. Now, what they did with that money is they basically took it and they put it back in their pockets through record stock buybacks. They didn't increase pay. They didn't increase benefits. No, they didn't help workers whatsoever. I mean, what? Oh, a couple of companies handed out very, very small bonuses, and maybe a couple saw very modest, meager pay raises. But overall, it was a very, very small amount from what they received in tax breaks. Amazon made $1 billion in profit. Their tax rate, 0. You and I, regular people, have paid more in taxes than Amazon this year. That is ridiculous. And look, some of these companies, like, for example, AT&T, Harley-Davidson, and many others, ended up cutting jobs after they got this massive tax giveaway and spent all that money on record stock buybacks. That tax bill also blew a gigantic hole in the budget. Then, of course, that's the Republican plan all along. I mean, here's what they do every time, and we've seen it. Every time they get into power, Republicans, they go in, they cut taxes for the rich and corporations. That creates giant deficits. And then they say, oh, look, we've got giant deficits. Now we need to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Now we need to cut food stamps. We need to cut housing assistance. We need to cut spending on environmental issues. And we can't spend any more money. And the Democrats, every time, they fall for it. Oh, you're right. We cannot spend any more money. When in reality, we absolutely can because we have our own sovereign currency. We literally can't go broke because we print our own money. And so, but again, that's what we do. And look, Mitch McConnell right now, he's out there saying, well, we have a deficit, and that's not because of the giant tax cuts for the rich, but we actually have it or have it because of these entitlement programs, and we're going to have to reform them. Of course. So they're going to raid entitlements, your Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, in order to pay for their tax cuts, which in reality, they don't. So this is how the Republicans see things, right? Tax cuts for the rich are super fine. We have more than enough money to throw at the rich and corporations. But how dare you help somebody in need of food? I mean, come on. How dare you? And now it's worse. This budget also includes even more money for military spending. And it also reignites the fight for the wall. Now they're asking for $8.6 billion for an additional wall funding. So here we go again. Now, as far as the military goes, it's another $80 billion plus for the military, a total of $750 billion for the next fiscal year. That exceeds the hike expected by Defense Department officials who were planning on a $733 billion budget. Now that's ridiculous. And here we are. We're shoveling more money to the military. Why? Why? We spend more in the military than almost anything else, especially other countries. We spend way more on the military than every other country combined. Oh, but it's defense. No. And let me show you why this entire thing is ridiculous. Now, according to a recent report by Open the Books, which has been actually reported by some conservative sites, which is interesting, such as Reason, right? Now, they reported that the Pentagon blew millions of dollars on things like lobster, crab, and a $9,000 chair in the closing months of 2018. And, of course, the reason they do that is, well, if I don't spend all this money, then when I ask for more appropriations, well, they're not going to give me the same amount of money. They're actually going to give me less. So let's quickly blow through the budget, spend every dime that we have so we get the same, if not more, amount of appropriations. Now, some of the expenditures included $163,000 spent on paintbrushes, a $7.6 million work expenditure on workout equipment, for example, ski equipment for both adults and juniors, $1.6 million on golf carts, and $4.6 million on lobster and crab. And this is just the last couple of months at the end of 2018. Not only that, but one federal agency spent $11,800 on a foosball table. Are you serious? And it's not just that, of course. Then you also have to look at the billions of dollars given to defense contractors so that they can make a profit. That money's not going to the troops. It's not going to the E1s that make $19,000 a year. It's not going to their health care. It's not going to their safety. No. It's going to defense contractors and lobster and crab. Come on, man. Seriously. And Trump wants to shovel more money to the defense budget, despite that massive waste and all at the expense, literally, of poor people on Medicaid. It's sick. Now, the details of how he's going to get even more money without Congress necessarily appropriating it. He said to raise money, they want to raise money by proposing putting $165 billion into a war account called the Overseas Contingency Operations Account. Now, that is not constrained by spending limits. Well, you know what a certain Trump official had thought about the OCO? This is Mick Mulvaney. He slammed the OCO as a, quote, slush fund. And now, where's Mulvaney on that now? Oh, right. He's not there at all. Ironically, that's exactly what it's going to be. This is going to be a gigantic Trump slush fund for the military, who doesn't need it at all. And so here we are. Trump's budget, again, showing how they're completely, their priorities are completely inhumane, giving more and more money to the rich, to the corporations, and cutting it from regular people, and also giving it to defense contractors. So that's your Trump budget. Will it get through the House? Probably not. I would hope not, because that's under Democratic control. But you never know. There will probably be some Democrats who will no doubt vote in favor. Because look, and I'm not sure for 100%, and maybe I'm being too hard on the Democrats. But I'm sure that there's somebody who's going to look at that and go, your defense, yes, give all the money to defense contractors. We love it. Let's do it. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.